Hello everyone, and welcome to History of the Ancient World. Today we're journeying back in time, over 3,000 years, to walk the sun-drenched lands of ancient Egypt. Forget what you've seen in the movies for a moment. We're going to explore the real, everyday lives of the people who built one of the most magnificent civilizations in human history. When we think of ancient Egypt, what comes to mind? Towering pyramids, golden pharaohs, and mysterious hieroglyphs, right? But beyond the grandeur of the tombs and temples, there was a vibrant, bustling society filled with farmers, artisans, soldiers, and scribes. Their lives were deeply intertwined with the rhythms of the mighty Nile River. The Nile wasn't just a river, it was the lifeblood of Egypt. Every year, like clockwork, it would flood its banks, depositing a rich, black layer of silt. This fertile soil was the secret to Egypt's agricultural wealth. The Egyptians called their country Kemet, which means the black land, referring to this precious soil, and they called the harsh desert surrounding them Deshret, the red land. Life for the vast majority of Egyptians, about 90% of the population, revolved around farming. Imagine waking up before dawn, the air still cool. You'd head out to the fields with your family, armed with simple wooden plows, often pulled by oxen. The main crops were wheat and barley, essential for making the two staples of the Egyptian diet, bread and beer. Yes, beer. It was a thick, nutritious brew, consumed by everyone from the humblest farmer to the pharaoh himself. It was even used as a form of payment for laborers. The agricultural year was divided into 3 seasons, each lasting 4 months. First was Akhet, the season of inundation, when the Nile flooded. During this time, farmers couldn't work their fields. So many were conscripted by the government for massive building projects, like constructing pyramids or temples. It was a form of taxation and civic duty, rolled into one. Next came Pere, the growing season. As the floodwaters receded, the planting began. It was hard work under the hot sun, using hoes to break up the soil and casting seeds by hand. Finally, there was Shchemu, the harvest season. This was a time of intense activity, with entire families working together to cut the grain with sickles and thresh it to separate the grain from the chaff. But what about life beyond the fields? Let's step into an ancient Egyptian home. Most ordinary people lived in houses made from sun-dried mud bricks. These homes were designed to stay cool in the desert heat, with small windows high up on the walls and flat roofs where families could sleep on hot nights. Inside, the furniture was simple: a few wooden stools, reed mats for sleeping, and some pottery for storing food and water. The kitchen was often an open-air courtyard with a clay oven for baking bread. Family was the cornerstone of Egyptian society. Marriages were typically arranged and girls often married in their early teens. The main goal of marriage was to have children, especially a son who could carry on the family name and perform the necessary funerary rites for his parents to ensure their safe passage into the afterlife. Despite this, women in ancient Egypt enjoyed a surprisingly high status compared to other ancient societies. They could own property, run businesses, and even inherit the throne, as famous queens like Hatshepsut and Cleopatra did. Now let's talk about the more skilled members of society, the artisans and craftsmen. These were the talented individuals who built and decorated the magnificent tombs and temples. Carpenters, stonemasons, painters, sculptors, and goldsmiths often lived in purpose-built villages, like Deir el-Medina, the village for the workers who constructed the tombs in the Valley of the Kings. Their work was highly specialized and respected. They were the ones who carved the intricate hieroglyphs, painted the vibrant scenes on tomb walls, and crafted the exquisite jewelry we admire in museums today. Of course, society was structured like a pyramid. At the very top was the pharaoh, considered a living god on earth. Below him were the nobles and high priests, who managed the country's religious and administrative affairs. And just below them was a crucial class of people, the scribes. In a society where very few people could read or write, scribes were the backbone of the administration. They were the record keepers, the tax collectors, the letter writers, and the librarians. Becoming a scribe was one of the few paths to social mobility. A boy from a humble background could, through years of rigorous training in a scribe school, rise to a position of power and wealth. They learned to write hieroglyphs, the sacred pictorial script used for monuments, and hieratic, a cursive script used for everyday documents written on papyrus. What about health and medicine? The Egyptians were surprisingly advanced for their time. They had doctors who specialized in different fields, from dentistry to internal medicine. They understood the importance of hygiene and had knowledge of anatomy, gained partly through the practice of mummification. Medical papyri, like the famous Ebers papyrus, list hundreds of remedies for various ailments, combining magical spells with practical treatments. While some of their cures might seem strange to us today, they also performed successful surgeries and set broken bones. Religion permeated every aspect of Egyptian life. They worshipped a vast pantheon of gods and goddesses, each representing different forces of nature or aspects of life. Ra, the sun god; Osiris, the god of the underworld; Isis, the goddess of magic and motherhood; and Horus, the falcon-headed god of the sky, were just a few of the major deities. Egyptians believed in a vibrant afterlife, which they imagined as a perfect version of their life on earth. This is why tombs were so important. They were not just burial places, but houses of eternity, equipped with everything the deceased would need for the next world, from food and furniture to magical spells written in the Book of the Dead to help them navigate the dangers of the underworld. The process of mummification was central to these beliefs. It was thought that the soul, or K, needed to be able to recognize and return to the body to live forever. So they developed a sophisticated 70-day process to preserve the body, removing the internal organs, drying the body with natron salt, and wrapping it in layers of linen bandages. Even leisure and entertainment were part of daily life. Egyptians loved music, festivals, and games. They played board games like Senet, a game of strategy that was also seen as a metaphor for the journey to the afterlife. They enjoyed hunting in the marshes, fishing on the Nile, and holding lavish banquets with music, dancing, and plenty of food and wine. So, from the farmer toiling in the fields to the pharaoh ruling from his golden throne, life in ancient Egypt was a rich tapestry of hard work, deep faith, and strong family bonds. It was a civilization that for 3 millennia thrived along the banks of the Nile, leaving behind a legacy that continues to captivate and inspire us to this day. They weren't just pyramid builders. They were people with hopes, fears, and a profound connection to their land and their gods. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the daily life of ancient Egypt. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the past, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to History of the Ancient World for more adventures in ancient history. Let me know in the comments which civilization you'd like to explore next. Thanks for watching and see you next time.